Extraordinary Athletes Doing Extraordinary Things, featuring para-athlete Michael DreamChaser Smith. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Runwave Podcast. I am your host, Kim. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the show. If you are a return listener, welcome back. I truly appreciate you listening week after week. If you didn't know, it is Black History Month for the entire month of February, although I celebrate Black History 365 days a year. But we are continuing with the series of extraordinary athletes who do extraordinary things. And I had the wonderful pleasure to chat with Michael Smith, Mr. Dream Chaser. He is a para-athlete who has a amputated arm. He participates in the sport of triathlon, and he tells me his harrowing story of how he became an amputee and how he got into the sport of triathlon. And trust me, this story will have you on the edge of your seats. So let's get into it. All right. So I have two-time Ironman, four-time Ironman 70.3 finisher, triathlete, and para-athlete Michael Smith. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Welcome again. We've been trying to do this show for an hour, people.
Yeah, I know. It's been crazy. Yeah. But we got it now. So
yes, if only you know
yeah,
the technical difficulties that go down behind the scene.
man,
But
right.
how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Blessed and, just making every day count.
That sounds good. So where are you originally from?
So I was born in Amarillo, Texas, which is the northern panhandle, but raised practically all my life from like age of 5 on in Dallas, Texas. So I just claim Dallas. I don't really, speak of Amarillo too much.
I don't hear a lot of people from Amarillo these days.
Really?
Why am I thinking of like aardvarks and hay bells when I think of Amarillo?
That's exactly what it is. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, the most famous thing out there is the Cadillac Ranch. I think that's out there. You ever heard of that?
No.
And then the Big Texan steak, the biggest steak or something. Like, I don't know. Man, ain't nothing in Amarillo. Nothing.
That's why you probably move, right? Your parents are like, we out of
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yep. And at the age of 5, I was still like, yes.
So,
Yeah.
what part of the country are you in right now?
I'm in right now. I'm like in Castle Rock, Colorado, but I'm currently moving to Colorado Springs, Colorado, which is right down the road. It's about an hour down the road. So,
Okay. And what's prompting
yeah.
your new move?
Um. So my whole intent to come to Colorado Springs was to train in altitude.
Mm.
And then not only that, but the Olympic Training Center is here. So my goal for 2021 or 2022 is to make the residence team. So that's where that's where everything is. So with my goals, I have specific goals and specific benchmarks that I want to meet, and being close to that place is one of them. So yeah.
So, what's the residence team?
It's basically it's people that's on the national team and you live on the Olympic Training Center campus.
Oh.
And you get it's like the best of the world. Like you get the best of everything. You get your chefs, your training, your coaching, your recovery, your housing.
Oh.
Um, your races are paid for, your travel is paid for. I mean, it's a legit situation. You know what I mean? Like it's a situation that any Olympic athlete would wanna be in if it was possible.
Sounds like a dream. I would love to have a chef one day.
I mean, I'm pretty fortunate though. Like I have a friend that's a chef. She owns a restaurant and she does all my meal prepping for me every Sunday. And so I
Really?
don't. Yeah, I don't do any cooking. She just brought it over the other day, and I mean, they're like, I don't know if you ever pay attention to my Facebook or my Instagram. They're like gourmet meals, and yeah, so
So you're set for
but
the whole week. All you have to do is throw it in the microwave or the oven and you're good to go.
that's it. That is
That's
it.
dope.
Yeah,
So what is your background in sports? Were you into sports as a youngster?
I was just I guess the typical Texan. We're huge in football and basketball, so I played football, played basketball, ran track, and that was the gist of it. Yeah, just that was it. And then, went to college and went into the army and still continued to play basketball in the army and, um, still ran every single day of my life in the army. But it's funny that you never like, I've been running in the army for like the past 23 years. And then when I got into triathlon and running marathons and stuff, like you realize that you don't really know how to run. Like it was crazy to me. When I got into like endurance running, I was like, oh, this will be easy. I've been running 10, 15 miles my entire career. Yeah,
Hmm.
no. It's
No,
a it's a
it's
it's a
totally
different
different.
world. Yeah,
Hmm.
different world. Yeah.
So you joined the army after college?
So actually joined right after high school, but I did like the
Hmm.
college prep program, so it gave me an opportunity to do both. So I was doing both. Um, and then after that, I just stayed in the army because after college, college is like a business. You come out of college in
Hmm.
debt, and you need to find something really fast. And
Hmm.
the army was paying for my education, and I didn't have a lot of debt, but I also wanted to find something that I felt like was worthy of my time and get paid for. And the army was it. And I told myself, I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll do this 5-year contract. And yeah, here I am 23 years later, still in it. So
That's interesting because we know about the army, but I don't think I really know how it works on the back end. So everyone that comes in has a contract for a certain amount of time.
yeah, so when you join the military initially, you pick your job, and a lot of times based on the job that you pick determines the length of the contract that you can pick. So like if you pick like nursing or something like that, just know like that's a long-term commitment. I believe it's like a 6-year commitment, like off the rip.
Mm,
But something like infantry or something lower grade, that doesn't require a lot of schooling or a degree, you
mhm,
could do anywhere from 2 to like 4 years. I did 5 just because I wanted that experience and I wanted that background. So when I did get out, I could say, yeah, I did this particular job for 5 years versus 2. And I knew that would speak volumes. So that's what I chose to do.
So what was
Yeah.
your specialty in the army?
So initially, my specialty was I came in as artillery.
Mhm,
So I didn't know. I was just trying to get my schooling paid for. So I just picked anything. And then
mhm.
that job led me to go into combat a couple times. So then I learned really, really quick that maybe I need to change my job and do something a little more technical, a little more serious. So I became a career counselor for the Army, and then I went into recruiting, and then I took over recruiting. Like I took over a company in recruiting command. So um, yeah,
Mhm. So for those of you that are listening and not watching, although you can't really see anyway, Michael is an amputee. And I mean, we've been following each other for a long time, probably through Black Triathlete. And, I've always, that's everyone knows that about you, but I don't think I've ever heard your story of how it happened. So tell me a little bit
yeah.
about that.
So I had just like legit moved to Nashville, Tennessee from California. And I took over like the city of Nashville as far as recruiting. I had assumed that city. Um, and I've been riding motorcycles practically my entire life, kind of grew up on them. And um, yeah, I was on a highway with a group of other riders one night, and this one particular night where I wasn't acting crazy and I wasn't doing anything foolish and wasn't speeding, and I just so happened had on all my gear, but this car came on to the on ramp or entered the on ramp. And as she was coming, I could see, like I could legit see her. Cause it's like 10 o'clock at night. I could see the glow from her phone into her face, which told me she was on her phone. So as she was merging into my lane, I was honking my horn, I was revving my engine, and she looked up and it startled her. You could see it, I could see it startled her. So um, of course, there's cars in front of me. So she slows down. She, puts up her hand as to say, I'm sorry or whatever. And she still managed to hit me. Like I still to this day, people that were with me have no idea how she still hit me, but she clipped me from behind, which forced my back wheel to turn all the way around. And it threw me over the guardrail into oncoming traffic. And before I could hit the ground, another vehicle hit me and severed my arm. So I remember all of that vividly because it was like once I got into the air, it was like I could see everything. It wasn't like a split second, or it probably was a split second, but it was like time slowed down and I could see everything. And if there was a one particular time where I was twirling upside down, and I just remember being able to see the truck coming. It was a white F-150. I was able to see the truck coming. And I just remember going, man, if I hit, like, I'm probably about to die right now. And it hit me. But when it hit me and it stopped me, which in hindsight, it's a blessing that that vehicle did hit me the way it did, because had I hit the ground and tumbled, I wouldn't be here today. It would hitting that ground going that type of speed. Yeah, it wouldn't have been good because she hit me and I was doing at least 75, 80 because I was a speed limit. So I know I was doing 75 or 80. So, but when the vehicle hit me, it stopped me and I hit the ground. The only injury I had was to my arm. That was it. I think when my head hit the ground, it knocked me out. But I remember coming to, and just military experience, going to combat. I knew I was injured, but I also knew I was on the highway, so I needed to get off the highway. So I was trying to scoot back, and I managed to get to like the concrete barrier, and I tried to stand up. And as I'm standing up, I legit put my left hand into my right hand, not knowing. So my arm is all the way on the other side, and I began to like pull it out of my jacket, and like
OMG.
that's when it just hit me like, okay, I'm in trouble. And I pass out. And then when I pass out, I think it was probably like seconds later or minutes later, I come back to. And when I come back to, my head was laying in this lady's lap. And I could feel her tugging on my head, but she was trying to take my helmet off. And I remember her talking to me. And once again, I hit that fight or flight. And I asked her immediately, like, what's wrong? Where am I injured? Because I had already forgot, like, my arm. And she was like, you're losing an enormous amount of blood, and I'm gonna have to, like, stop the bleeding. And I told her, I was like, look, on the inside of my motorcycle jacket, I have a tourniquet. Like, I was prepared like that. So it was like a little tourniquet that I had that we used to carry around in combat. And I never thought I would use it for me. I thought I would use it for somebody else. But I had it, and she took it out of my jacket, and I was about to, excuse me, I was about to tell her how to use it. And she was like, I'm a Navy corpsman. A Navy corpsman is a nurse for the Navy. And it's like, soon as she told me that, I passed out. Like, it was like a relief. It was like a relief. I was like, oh, well, I don't have anything. She's trained to do this. So the next time I woke up was like 2 days later. And by the time I woke up, my mom, my grandma, and my uncle, and they were all there in Nashville. So, yeah.
My heart is beating fast. I was like out of a movie.
Oh,
So
yeah.
what happened to the woman that hit you?
Oh, it was a hit and run. She kept going. Hit and run. So my friends that were with me saw the whole thing happen. And they said that my motorcycle caused so much debris and smoke on the highway that they had to wait to get around it. And they said by the time they got around my motorcycle, she was off the next on ramp, or she was gone, like nowhere to be
Wow.
found. And the crazy thing, it was right in front of the Titan Stadium, which normally that part of the highway, or that part of the highway is monitored. There's cameras. And that
Mhm.
particular day, all the cameras were down for service.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, hopefully karma caught up with her somewhere down the line.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm pretty sure, like, if it didn't, it will, and if it didn't happen to her, it's happened to somebody that she cares about, and or it's eating away at her conscience. Like there could be no way I could live with myself knowing that
Oh, how
I
can you
could have
hit
like
someone and
killed
keep
somebody.
going? I know,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
there's no way.
So the woman that was in the Navy course, she just stopped, pulled over when she saw the accident?
Yeah. So the crazy thing, so there's not a Navy base in Kentucky, and she was from Clarksville, Kentucky, or she was from Nashville, and she was driving home on leave, and she saw it happen, and she stopped. So to this day, like, I don't even know who this woman is. I haven't seen her. Like, I legit
Really?
have people, like, I have services looking for this woman. Like, I've done tons and tons of interviews, and I've had people like watch the interview and be like, oh, I can help you find her. And I have people like professionals legit looking for this woman. So,
So what
but
year
yeah,
was
she
this?
she saved my life. This was 2011.
Wow. So what was your recovery like?
Oh man, it was like a roller coaster. So the first thing I remember saying is, when I woke up, I noticed that my arm was in a cast, and I couldn't really move. And I think I was just sedated. And my mom was standing at the end of my bed, and I remember raising my head, and I asked my mom, and I was like, I just have a couple of questions. And I was like, one, I was like, is my face messed up? And she was like, nope, you're still
That was
handsome.
your
I was
first
like,
question?
yep, yep, yep. And then I was like, um, I was like, did I lose any of my manhood? She was like, you're all intact. I was like, oh, we're good.
That's a good second question.
Yeah.
Now, what was your third
So
question?
no, I didn't have one. I was at ease. I was at ease because those are the two main things. Like, I could have no legs, but as long as my manhood work, I still have a chance on getting married. So I'm good. I
So at
wasn't worried
that
about
point, did
nothing
you
else.
know that you were, well, were you amputated at that point?
No, so what happened was, so they tried to save my arm. So
Mhm.
um yeah, basically they call it a limb salvage. So they basically reconnected my arm and tried to save
Mm.
it. Um and like, I knew it was a long shot, but like, I was legit out of the hospital within a week after that accident. So
Wow.
I was at home, but I was just going through it. Like, the pain was just, I wouldn't put that on my worst enemy. That pain was something serious. And um it was just it was just everything. It was just the traumatic, injury. It was just a lot. And I just was going, so I went back and forth to the hospital, like, going back and forth, because I was having infections, and it was like leaking and all types of stuff. And
Mm.
one particular time, I just remember sitting on the couch, and I looked at my mom, and I was like, I think my hand is dead. And she was like, why would you say that? And I was eating. I took my fork, and I was like, ding, ding, ding. And it sounded like wood.
On
Like,
the
it sounded
hand?
like, yeah, I was like that. And my mom was like, maybe we should go to the emergency room. And then, like, they amputated my hand. And it wasn't a problem because I was dead. I couldn't even feel it. Like, it
Mhm.
wasn't like my first surgery. So each time I went to the hospital, I was facing another amputation. Like, it was amputation after amputation after amputation. And I remember the whole time the doctor kept telling me, my surgeon kept telling me, he was like, as long as we can keep it below the elbow, you will have a chance on living a regular life. So I was like, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna try to keep it below the elbow. Like, I went through a series of like 6 different amputations. and they was doing it little by little, trying to catch this,
Wait, they were
the
cutting
infection.
your arm little by little every time?
Yeah. Every time I went to the hospital, every single time, they were just amputation, 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 amputation. Then it got to a point where I was just below the elbow, and I had my elbow joint, and I had a couple of inches below my elbow. So it got to a point where I could bend my elbow, and I was like, oh, like I have feeling I can bend my elbow, so I think we're in the clear. So my mom, we had just found out. So during this whole time, we had found out that my aunt had got stage 4 cancer. She found out that she had stage 4 cancer on the day that I got into my accident, which is crazy. She didn't even
Yeah.
know she was sick. She just went in for a checkup, and she's a nurse. She just went in for a checkup. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they called her back on the day that I got into my accident and told her she had stage 4 cancer. So my mom was getting ready to go back to Texas to be with my aunt. And we go into the hospital, and the doctor, like my mom is sitting in a chair, and I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, and I'm laughing, joking with my mom or whatever. And we're talking about my aunt, and he comes in and he was like, hey, so uh, let me squeeze your arm real quick. And I was like, bro, I still got stitches at the end of this thing. Like, what do you mean? He was like, yeah, he was like, I'm just kind of curious, man. He was like, it's not looking like it was before, but I'm just kind of curious. So he took his hands and he squeezed at the bottom of my arm. What did he do that for? Man, all this,
No, don't tell me. Don't tell me.
yeah, it was disgusting. All this stuff came out. My mom
Ooh.
passed out. Like she
Oh.
passed out. Yeah. And then he tells me, he goes, yeah, so you got another infection. He was like, I was like, you know what? I was like, take the arm where it initially got severed. Just I'm over this. I'm past this. Clearly, it's in the limb that we're trying to save, and it hasn't got that far up. And I was like, I'd rather take it where it was initially severed than to keep doing this whole process. I was like, I legit can't take anymore. Like, I'm so through with
Mm.
this. I'm so beyond this right now. So um, we did all of that, and they took it. My mom left, and that was like the end of the surgeries. And then, yeah, my mom goes home. She's at home for like a couple of days. My best friend, his name is Sammy, Sammy G. We used to call him G, but really close. He moved in with me, became my roommate to like legit take care of me. Like
Mm-hmm.
he was bathing me as a grown man because I had no function. But I was sitting on the couch and he was cooking. And I just remember raising up and I told him, I was like, hey, man, I was like, I think we need to go to the hospital. He was like, wow, what's going on? I was like, bro, I'm dying. He was like, what? I was like, I'm dying. I was like, I'm not joking. I'm dying. Like, I'm about to die. He was like, nah, man, it's probably your meds. Cause by this time I'm on like a whole bunch of just crazy narcotics,
Mm-hmm.
just crazy stuff. So it would make me I was zoned out like 95% of the day. So I get up, he follows me to my room because I had a bathroom in my room, and I turn on the shower. All I did was stick my hand in the shower, and I passed out. I woke up that like a day later in the hospital. Um, they didn't know why. But when I came to, the lady was like, I have no idea how you're even awake or how you're even talking to me right now because you're supposed to come out of this with brain damage. She was like, your blood pressure was so high that we were prepping your family to let them know that you was going to have brain damage.
Oh
And
my God.
I'm looking at my friend like, man, what else? Like, what else could go wrong? So I'm
Listen, the
thinking I'm about
gods
to
were
go
looking
home.
out for you at that
Oh,
accident and through
oh yeah.
all of this.
Oh yeah.
Goodness.
Oh yeah. So I'm thinking I'm about to go home. Like I'm thinking like, okay, they're gonna give me some blood pressure medicine, they're gonna get it down, I'm gonna go home. They admit me into the hospital. I stay there for 2 weeks. And I'm just like, man, I couldn't eat. Like I was like losing weight. So I'm back then my average walk around weight was like between 205, 210, just doing a lot of working out. In 2 weeks, I had got down to like 100 and like 10 pounds. in 2 weeks.
What?
Yeah. So I knew something was wrong, but I knew something was really wrong when my surgeon and like people from my motorcycle, they were coming to say their goodbyes to me. And I was just like, when my surgeon did that, I was like, wait. I was like, are you like telling me that I'm not coming out of this? Like I'm dying? He was like, man, Mike, he was like, nobody knows what's going on. They were running tons and tons of tests. And he was like, I'm gonna tell you, because your doctor won't tell you straight. He was like, man, you're legit, like you're slowly just you're going. And I'm like, man, what is going on right now? So fast forward, my aunt is dying. So she calls me and she goes, hey nephew, what are you doing? I was like, yeah, man. I was like, I'm going through it. I don't know what's going on. She was like, well, I'm just calling you to tell you that I'm going to take your place. And I was like, you're going to take my place? So immediately, like, just, just, man, it's my mom is in the background. I can hear people crying. And I'm just like, what do you mean? She was like, yeah, I'm throwing myself a going away party right now. But this is a part of my going away party. Like she was throwing herself a party, like
Mhm.
invited friends, family over there because she knew she was gone. She wasn't gonna be able to help it. So she was like, I'm supposed to take your place. And I'm just like, and this is all on speakerphone, like we're crying and I'm just going through it. And my doctor comes in, he was like, is everything okay? And I was just like, no. My aunt goes, hey, let me talk to the doctor. So she goes, you need to check my nephew for kidney failure. And like this light bulb, this aha moment came to him. And he was just like, he looked at me and he was just like, I'll be right back. Finish talking to your aunt. So I'm talking to my aunt and she was just like, um, that's my way of taking your place. And then because she was stage 4 and she was hospice, like then she started talking crazy and all this stuff. So I knew it was time for us to get the phone.
Mhm.
Got the phone. The next morning, they do all these tests, and I had renal kidney failure. That was the whole thing. And the doctor was like, had they not caught it, when they caught it, I was checking out. Like I was legit was checking out. They put me on dialysis and all this and all that. A couple of days on dialysis, I think it was my sister or my mom. I think it was my mom called me and she was like, well, your aunt really wants to see you before you go. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, yeah, like it's not looking good. We don't think she's gonna last another 24 hours. So I called my friend Sammy G. I was like, bro, look on my dresser. I have some spare keys in my top drawer. I was like, I don't want to hear no, I don't want to hear no nonsense. All I need you to do is at 8 o'clock tonight, when the nurses are doing their switchover and I'm off dialysis by 5, I was like, I need you to come sneak me out the hospital. He came up to the hospital, snuck me out. We jumped in my truck and we drove straight to Dallas. 12 hours, bam, drove straight to Dallas. On the way there, I'm throwing up out the window. He wants to pull over. I'm like, no, bro, like, let's go. I'm throwing up and all this stuff. And I get there. I drive up to the house. I didn't tell nobody else coming. I drove up to the house. I walked in the door. All my family is like standing in the living room. All my family. Like I walk up, like it was like they seen a ghost. Like I walked in, they kind of just like moved. I walked into where my aunt was. I grabbed her hand, and she passed away.
Wow.
Yeah,
I know y'all are listening to this because if you can see my face, my every time he's
yeah,
just reliving this story, just wow, it's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
So how were you like, how long was this period after the accident, all the surgeries? How long was that?
And this was like a couple of months, maybe.
Really?
Yeah, it was like bam, 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 bam. Like it was a couple of months, but it felt like days. It felt like everything was moving so fast because I went through all those surgeries and I was staying in the hospital for an extended amount of time. And I was in the hospital for like almost a month. with dealing with my kidney stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
then while I'm in Texas, I go to church the next day with my mom and I pass out in church. Like I go to stand up and I pass out. Next thing I know, I'm waking up in the ambulance and the doctor's asking me, like, he was like, what's going on with you? Tell me about you. And I was like, well, I just lost my arm. I'm on dialysis in Tennessee. He was like, excuse me? He was like, what'd you say? I was like, yeah, man. I was like, I ain't even supposed to be here. Like I snuck out the hospital. Man, he
Wait, so
looking
you
at
were
me
in
like,
the other hospital now?
yeah. So they drove me to the hospital in the ambulance, and then they airlifted me from Nashville to or from Dallas back to Nashville. Yeah. And
Well,
the people at my hospital were what are you doing, bro? Like, you could have died. Like, you just got
mhm.
on dialysis. We're trying
I
to
was just
save your
thinking
life
that
if
you
you
could have
leave.
killed yourself, but you had to say bye to
Yeah.
your aunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
for 2 months, how was that like on you mentally? Because we know like the physical was hard, but
You
the
know what?
mental is like a whole other thing.
It didn't even hit me until when you're, it didn't hit me until after I started getting better and I started getting off meds is when it really kind of hit me. Um, I just don't know for the first, I don't know, for like the first 6 months, maybe that 6 months felt like it just went by so fast, but I was
Mhm.
medicated that entire time. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm really not having my own thoughts. Like I'm just in a daze. Like the entire time, I'm just in a daze. I'm telling you, I'll send you an article. In my article, a whole bunch of articles. I state like there was a time period where I bought like in the course of a year, I bought like 8 cars. Yeah, 8 cars. Like I had a hat fetish, and I never wore hats before that. I probably went through a series of like 5 cell phones, changed my number like 5 times. Like that, those meds had. I was on one.
Mm.
It got to the point where like my roommate and my mom, like everybody was like, do not let this dude watch TV because everything he sees, he wants. I saw a truck, a white truck. Like I had a thing with white cars. I saw a white truck. I had to have one. I forced my uncle to go take me to the dealership and buy a white truck. I bought it. I saw a white Cadillac, a CTS. It just came out. I went to the Cadillac dealership, bought a Cadillac. I saw a white drop top CLK 350 Benz, and I wanted one. It was a hard top Benz, and that was my first time seeing it. And I wanted one. I went and bought one. I went and bought Acura. I went and bought a BMW. I went and bought a Camaro. Like I was just buying cars like left and right. To this day I don't even know why. Yeah, I don't know.
So you were still Army at this time though, right?
Yeah, and so yeah, the crazy thing is I was I was in the army, but removed for almost like almost a year and a half. I didn't hear nothing from the army. Like nobody called to check up on me. Nobody, nothing. Like I legit went home to Dallas Tech. Like I went home to my mom's house so that she could like take care of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still getting paid. Nobody said nothing. Um, and how I ended up going to a recovery center in San Antonio was my cousin is in the Air Force. And my mom called my cousin and was like, hey, I'm really worried about Michael because he's on these meds and now he's going through this crazy depression and he's drinking while he's on these meds. And like, I feel like something bad is about to happen. So she was like, he's in the army. Like, what can we do? She was like, nobody has called him from the army. And my cousin was like, I thought he was in like a recovery center for the army. And my mom was like, no, he's been home for like almost a year. So yeah, my cousin told me about this place. I legit, once again, out of my mind, I get it. I jump in my car the next day. I drive all the way to Kentucky to this place. It's called the Warrior Transition Unit. So when you're injured in the military, this is a place that you go to receive care. I
Mm-hmm.
drove from Dallas to Kentucky. I walked into that place and I was like, hey, so how do I get taken care of? And they looked at me like, who are you? And how did you lose your arm? And I told them, I was like, yeah, I legit live right down the street in
Mm-hmm.
Nashville. And I lost it like almost a year and a half ago. And when I told them that, oh my goodness, like it was like World War II. I went and talked to the base commander. They was all these people was coming in, talking to me, interviewing me, and was like, we don't even know who you are. We had no idea this even happened. So like, of course, people were getting fired from where I worked at, like, because nobody checked on me.
So did you slip through the cracks? Like what happened?
Probably, I don't know. I don't even know how that happened. Honestly, I don't know. I don't want to say they forgot, but
But don't you
um,
call them up and say, hey, I had an accident, like, I'm going through
well, they
it.
knew they knew because they came and saw me in the hospital when I initially got hurt. So
Uh-huh.
they knew. It's not like didn't nobody know. Like my command team came and saw me, which is crazy. Like, and G, my roommate, we worked in the same office, and I would talk to him all the time, and I'd be like, "Bro, is anybody saying anything?" He was like, "Nah, man, ain't nobody said nothing." I was like, "Well, if they ain't saying nothing, I guess they got it under control." But what happened is they didn't report it up.
Mm.
They didn't tell anybody. So yeah,
So what happened at this center that you went to? What is it? Is it like a
um,
rehab or what is it?
yeah, it's basically like a medical treatment center for soldiers,
Mhm.
like for different variations of injuries, illnesses, things like that. So they asked me where did I want to go. And by this time, they're just like, you can go anywhere you want, man. Like we'll send you, like, we owe you so much. You can go wherever you want. So the only one in Texas was in San Antonio. Plus my cousin lived in San Antonio. So I was like, all right, just send me to San Antonio. So when I got to San
Mhm.
Antonio, that's when I went through all my treatments and started getting better and getting healthy. And that's where I learned, that's where I kind of like discovered this whole new person that I wanted to be. You know what I mean? And that's when I did the rock and roll half, then the rock and roll full. And then that's when I started discovering all these things that I do now.
So when did you like go back to work to active duty? How much further down the
Um,
line was that?
so 2015, 2015. So between 2013 and 2000, so it took me almost 2.5 to 3 years to fight to stay on active duty service. So to see an arm amputee on active duty service is like unheard of. I only know one other person that's done it, but they did it after me. So the entire time I was fighting to stay in and this, that, and the other. And yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for good old uh, President Barack Obama, when I met him, if it wasn't for him, I definitely wouldn't. I mean, I did what I was supposed to do, but like he pushed the envelope for me. You know, he wrote me a letter and stuff and to stay in. And yeah, when I presented that letter to the army, they was just like, yeah, well, how
Well,
we gonna tell
Obama
the
said it's
president that?
okay. So yeah.
Yeah, right. He sees something in your boy, so I guess y'all need to too. So
Hmm.
yeah.
So how did you segue into, because you didn't return, did you return to like recruiting?
Yeah. So um yeah, I just returned. Well, so first they denied it. And then I had several people that I had met and, that was on my side, and they helped me get a formal board. And I went into the board and proved why I should stay in and this, that, and the other. And they said I could. So, like, legit, I stayed in and they sent me to like the armpit of America. They sent me to Arkansas. So I went to Arkansas. Yeah, I went to
The armpit
Arkansas
of
back.
America.
Yeah, man, I hate that
Is that
place.
bad?
Man, oh my goodness. I've never heard in my life somebody say, we're gonna go on vacation. Yeah, let's go to Little Rock, Arkansas.
No.
No.
The only thing I
So
heard about Little Rock is that marathon with that big old medal.
yeah, that's it. And then and then the Clinton Library, because that's where
Mm-hmm.
Clinton is from. But
Yeah, he's
other
from
than
there.
that,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah, man. I don't know. I got some really good friends that do Ironman. They're in BTA. That's from Arkansas, and I give them crap all the time. But yes, I went to recruiting in Arkansas and did that. And while in Arkansas is when I somehow got into skeleton bobsledding. Um, they called me. They was like, "Hey, would you like to come to a camp and do this and do that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll go. Why not?" And then I find out it's skeleton bobsledding, which I'm from Texas. I didn't even know what that was. Little did
Mm-hmm.
I know you're laying on your stomach head first, going down an ice track, going 70 plus miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
But I did that and got good at it and made the national team, and then was like ranked third in the world, and was doing that full time and doing recruiting. So I became like a little local celebrity in Arkansas, which didn't mean much because it was in Arkansas. But yeah, getting
Listen, the
ready to go to.
Arkansas people, they're gonna come for you. You better
Hey,
stop.
they listen. They could do it because they don't want to be in Arkansas either. They just stuck there because of family. If they could leave, they would. Ain't nothing in Arkansas. But yeah, so preparing for the Olympics, and then all of a sudden, like that year of the Olympics, man, there's like a lot of people dying and stuff. We were supposed to go to, I think it was Pyeongchang or yeah, something like that, Korea, something like that. But there was like a couple of people had died, and then they was just like, yeah, there's no way we can let you go down this track anymore because I was I was the first and only person to ever do that sport with one arm. So
Mm.
imagine being in a roller coaster with no seatbelt, and you're just in a seat going, it's
Oh,
like
I've
taking all
seen
these
it.
turns.
It looks crazy.
Yeah.
How do you
So
even get
I'm
on that thing and go down the first time? Like, what goes through your mind? Like, mm-mm.
a lot of stuff that I did, I was like, you know what? I already lost an arm. What's the worst that could happen? When people started flying off the track and dying, then I was just like, oh yeah, I need to think about this. But when they told me like I could no longer do it, I wasn't even mad. I was like, that's cool because in the midst of training for the Paralympics, for the actual, not the Paralympics, for in midst of training for the Olympics for that sport,
Mm-hmm.
um, that's when I did my first half Ironman. Like a friend of mine invited me to go to Augusta, and was like, "Hey, do you want to do a triathlon?" I was like, "Yeah, that's cool," because I had been swimming and running and biking and all this stuff. So I was like, "Yeah, I mean, a triathlon, how hard could that be?" I had no idea what an Ironman was. Had no idea what a 70.3 was. So
Mm-hmm.
when I get there, um, they're telling me they're like, "Hey, you're gonna need a wetsuit." What I need a wetsuit for, bro? Ain't we just gonna swim in a pool? He's like,
In a
"Nah, man, we
pool?
about to." Yeah, he was like, "Nah, we swimming in a river." I was like, "Hold on, I've never swum in open water." I was like, "What are you talking about?" He was like, "Yeah, this is a half Ironman." So I get on my phone and I was just like, "Oh, what? Wait, hold
You ask
on,
Google?
man." Google was like, "Yeah, you done got yourself in some mess." That's what Google said.
Wait, isn't
But
Augusta the one that takes you practically down the river?
yeah, so let me tell you about that. That's what it's supposed to do when you have two arms propelling you down the river. You see what I'm saying? Like they try to give me the whole bag of potato chip. Like you could put a bag, like put it in the river and it go. Yeah, man. Yeah. They fail to mention like when you weigh like 200 pounds, that slows the process down. That slows gravity down. Like you're not moving as
Mhm.
fast as you think. Yeah. So, and I had never put on a wetsuit before. So I'm hyperventilating. I'm scared. The guy that was swimming with me was like, man, turn over on your back. I was like, listen, I was like, I ain't turning over on no back in no open water. And he stopped me. He was like, all right, let's just stop. He was like, listen, They've never found anybody at the bottom of a river, a lake, or ocean with a wetsuit on. I looked at him like, I was like, what?
Well, that is true because you float in a wetsuit. You didn't
Yeah,
know that though.
I didn't. And I'm looking at him like, that is I legit, a white dude. And it was white people that invited me. So it's not a problem. But I'm looking at him like, bro, you trying to sabotage my life because what you said doesn't even make sense. Like, that sounds stupid. But we finally like, and I wasn't supposed to do the whole thing. I was just supposed to do a relay. I was only supposed to do the swim and the bike. So I legit wore Vans to the transition area. The guy that was going to do my run was a double leg amputee. So he was just going to do the run. I get to transition. This dude is nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found. So I'm like, so the guy that swam with me, he was doing the whole thing. He was like, okay, well, I'll get word to him, to the team, and they'll find him and get him. Maybe he's on the course somewhere, or maybe he had to go to the bathroom, but they'll let him cut through and just meet you. So I was like, all right. So I put on my Vans with no socks and I'm running. And as soon as you come out of transition, I think like maybe a quarter of a mile into the run, there's an aid station, there's a thing. And this dude goes, Are you about to do this in Vans? I was like, I'm not supposed to be doing the run. And he took off his running shoes and gave them to me. And I took off. Like I'm running, I'm trotting or whatever. I'm like doing my thing. Or no, that was after the bike. So I did the bike and then, put on my Vans and did all this. And yeah, like I get to the first aid station, the guy gives me his shoes, I'm running. Like, and I never felt this type of pain because I've never done all three together. Like, and not knowing that I'm gonna have to run, I'm on the bike just getting it. Like I'm trying to make up for the swim time. The dude that's with me, he was like, oh man, like you're really like he was like, you're really moving. I'm passing people, I'm gassed up, like feeling myself, and had a little did I know I was about to die on this run. Like it was crazy, but got on the run and got somebody else's shoes. This dude meets me at like mile 8. And I looked at him like, nah, brother, you can go on wherever you just came from. You can just go back.
You're
I was
not
like,
gonna get in the medal at the finish line. Shoot.
nah. I was like, there is no way I'm giving up this chip. So I just
Mile
kept it
8.
moving.
Where the heck was he?
Something about the excuse was his hands were overheating, so they had to go find him some gloves to put ice in his gloves, which made no sense. That had nothing to do with the running. I was baffled. So I was like, all right. So I just kept running. I kept doing my thing, and I finished. And that was the birth of my love for triathlon. Like that day, because it was so hard. I just remember when I crossed the finish line, like I was crying. Like I legit was crying. I had never done anything like that. Never wanted to. I never had a desire to do anything like that. I felt like when people were telling me at the at the little symposium or the little thing that they had before the races, like people were telling me the distances, and I was like, man, why do people do this? This is dumb.
So that was your foray into triathlon, a 70.3.
Yep.
Most
Yep.
people
That
start
was
with
it.
sprints. You just went like right into the big dog, the half big
Yeah.
dog.
I went right into it. I found me another half. I did, what did I do? What was the other half I did? It was a half, but it wasn't Ironman represented. It was by Rev 3, but it was a half distance. So I did that. And then I ended up doing the DC full, Texas, or the Maryland, Texas, and Chattanooga. And then I went back and did another Augusta. And then that's when I switched over to sprint. And to this day, I think half or fulls are easier than sprint triathlons.
Sprint, we were talking about Saj from Varlo offline, but we were talking about that the same thing. Like sprints, your adrenaline is like going the whole time for that short amount of time. But when you're in like a long whole race. You can chill. You're not chilling on the bike, but you have that time, just to be mellow
Yeah,
and get it
yeah,
done. But sprints,
you
you're
get a
like on it.
yeah, you get like a transition bag. You can eat, put on
Mm-hmm.
socks. You can take your time. You can make a mistake, but make up for it. You can legit do like a walk run scenario if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
You're not in any big rush. You have this time cap. Sprint is not like that. Like my heart rate, I'm in zone 5 the entire time. I look at my heart rate, and every time, like I look at Training Peaks and Zwift and or Strava, and my heart rate is just like through the roof. It stays like at least 190 the entire time, like
Yeah,
just there. So yeah.
crazy. So you're still active duty in the Army right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what is your job today in the Army?
So there's a program in the Army that not hardly anybody knows. It's called the World Class Athlete Program, and basically, when you have the potential to um, turn pro or go to the Olympics, the main objective is go to the Olympics. But when you have the potential to make the Olympics and you've made a development or a national team, the Army basically comes to you and is like, hey, we're going to support you, and we want you to be an athlete. All we want you to worry about is being an athlete, representing the Army as a soldier and an athlete. And, we're going to provide you the tools to get to the Olympics. And I mean, that's what I'm doing. I mean, soldier athlete.
And they pay you to be a soldier athlete?
Yeah, and I get paid pretty good. I mean, I've been in the Army for a good little bit. So 23 years, you know what I mean? So,
That's a
that's
good
like
deal.
being in a
What
company.
them benefits look like?
Man, A1. A1. I mean, I get housing allowance, so that doesn't come out of my pocket. They pay for that. They pay for my equipment. I mean, I got two brand new bikes this year that are both of them are $20,000 plus with all the stuff, the wheels and all that stuff, and they pay for some of my races. Not all of them, but they pay for most of my races.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I'm injured, I'm allotted the opportunity to take advantage of veteran nonprofit organizations. So they give me money. And then, local races, when they offer a bag, for podium, like money, I can keep that. So I'm in a very, very unique,
You getting a
blessed
a
situation.
good deal here.
Yeah, yeah. It's a great position to be in for
So
sure.
did they invite you into the World Class Athlete program or did you inquire about it?
So actually, I had a friend who is missing a leg, and I did my first para race was national. Like I happened to qualify for it because I've been doing Ironmans, and it was my first short course.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't see him the whole time, but when I crossed the finish line, he was like, "Bro, like you legit just took fourth place, and you've never done this race." He was like, "That's." He was like, "Have
Crazy.
you been training?" Yeah, he was like, "Have you been training for this?" I was like, "Nah, man, I've been doing Ironmans," and I was like, "I don't even really train for that." I was like, "I'm still running a recruiting station in the armpit." So, um, yeah,
Armpit
so
of America.
yeah, so I went back to Arkansas, and they transferred me to Fort Knox, Kentucky, which is another armpit. So I'm in Fort Knox in the middle of nowhere, all these crazy places, but so I'm there, and they send me to San Antonio to go talk. They love me. Like the recruiting command loves me, but I asked them, I was like, "Hey, I want to inquire about this place. Can I fly to San Antonio?" They was like, "Yeah, we'll fly you there." So I was like, "Okay." So they flew me there, got me a rental, got me a hotel. I met my friend. They took me in. I talked to the boss, and I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't know if I'm gonna make any kind of team, but if you provide me the opportunity, I promise you, like, I won't let you down. Like, you'll get 100% of me. And if I
Mm-hmm.
don't make it, it's just going to be because I'm older, I'm aging, and there's somebody out there that's younger and faster than me that'll beat me." I was like, but along the way, I was like, I promise you, like, I will make headlines and I'll make the Army proud. And, I'll be that representative that, you know, the Army needs. I'll be that good news story. I'll be the face. So he was just like, yeah, I'll give you a year to make some team. And my first, like, he gave me the opportunity. And my first year was like, it wasn't anything I expected. Like, it's like you immediately turn pro. It's like going from novice to pro immediately, because your whole life changes. You get all this money, and now your job is to train and race. I wasn't used to that, and I kept getting injured. Um, I couldn't race. I think my first year I only raced twice because I was injured the rest of the time. Um, and it just wasn't good. And I had hit my 20-year mark, and in the military, 20 years you can retire. I was like, man, I'm just gonna take my little 100%, my 20-year retirement. Excuse me, and I'm gonna run. And yeah, excuse me, I was expecting him to let me go. So I go in, I'm talking to him, and he was like, yeah, so, you know, you didn't hit any of your benchmarks, and, you know, this is just not what we expected. You know, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I'm at 20 years. And I was like, man, I'm 38. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go on and call it quits. And he was like, well, when you retire, what you gonna do? I was like, I'm gonna still pursue this. I was like, this is like, I'm hooked on this sport, so I'm still gonna do the sport. And because I'm para, I still have opportunity. He was like, oh, well, we'll keep you. I was like, all right. So the next year I raced, made nationals, did a couple of world races. So now I'm starting to hit my benchmarks. I'm starting to become a little known. People are starting to recognize who I am. And now is when, because I'm doing these bigger races, now I'm looking around. I'm just like, man, am I the only black dude? I was like, nah. So I asked the director, I went to her, I was like, hey, so is there any other black people that do this race? And she was like, Mike, you're the only one. She was like, I'm surprised you're just now asking me. She was like, you're the only one in the country. She was like, you may be the only one in the world. And I was like, really? She was like, yeah. So me, I don't particularly pay attention to that. But when she brought it to when I started noticing, and then I started noticing how people were treating me. And then I was just like, okay. I was like, all right. And only one time where it was really noticeable, where the race director came up to me and was like, hey, so what station do you want to be at? And I was like, station? He was like, yeah. He was like, aren't you volunteering? I was like, no, I'm racing. He was like, no, for real. I was like, are you asking me because I have one arm? He was like, well, no. I was like, oh, so you for real asking me because I'm black?
Wait, this
He
is
was
for a
like,
triathlon?
yes. There's this. So the Paralympic races are separate from the pros, but we
Uh-huh.
race at the same venue on the same day. We just race at a
Mhm.
different time. But see, there's no pro black athletes or pro triathletes. There's one as
Max
Maxwell.
Fennel. Mhm.
Yeah, there's one, but he doesn't even do it anymore.
Nope.
Which is that's a whole nother conversation. I'm so disappointed with that. Like, I don't know. And we're friends on Facebook. We've had a conversation, and for you to be a pioneer, turn pro, and then stop. Like, what was the objective? Like, that blows my mind. But anyway, so even when all the races together, I'm still the only one. So
How
um
could you not notice though? Even when I go to races, even running races, like I say hey to every black person I know because there ain't that many of us there. And triathlon is
so
even worse. I've been to a
yes.
race where I could count on my hand how many of us it was there. Were at the race.
So I think it's because I at that time I was so new to the sport that my nerves were so bad. Like, I would legit fly in. get my stuff together, and I would go do my whatever my coach wanted me to do. And I was just in a different world. I was just in my own space. So I just, it just, I just didn't notice. I mean, and I'm not groomed like that either. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't raised like that. I'm not like that. I'm not that guy. Uh, so it just didn't dawn on me until I started to be treated like I was the only Black person in this sport. So, um, but in lieu of all that, like, I'm doing my thing, I'm hitting my benchmarks, and it became a good situation. 2020 was best year for training, but now more than ever, it's an issue. Like, um, even with the sport, all these sports is trying to be inclusive and include diversity. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it's more of a problem now for me personally than it ever has been. I was on a podcast with an organization that I'm belong to, and I don't want to say the name because I don't want them to be all act crazy. But I was on the podcast, and a lady asked me. She was like, um, what is it like for you in triathlon? I was like, honestly, I was like, I'm gonna go another direction with this, and I told her. She was like, yeah, please go ahead. And I was like, being Black in triathlon is like being a Black man in America. And she just kind of looked. We were on a Zoom call, and there's like 60 of us on there. I'm the only Black dude. And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, so think of it. I was like, everybody on this call is white. I'm the only Black man on this. Not the only Black person, but I'm the only Black man. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I fear getting pulled over. I fear being in public and something happens, then everybody's going to look at me. I was like, not only that, but I'm full of tattoos and I have goatee. I'm from Texas. I'm from South Texas. I'm as Southern as they get. I was like, but until I open my mouth or you talk to me, you don't know how educated I am. I was like, but along with that, I get treated like I'm the only Black person in this sport. And she was like, well, what about now? Like, you're on this call. So like, I'm on USAT ambassadorship team, right? And I'm the
Mm-hmm.
team captain. So I'm the team captain of that ambassadorship team. I'm also man of the year for USAT. So my question was, and I'm very appreciative of all that. And I've worked my butt off to get to where I'm at now at this elite status. Like, I race all elite races now and I have all this sponsorships and people doing all this. But my question is if we wasn't going through what we're going through right now, had George Floyd, had that not happened, had America not witnessed him being murdered, would I be in this position right now? Would I be on the ambassadorship team? Would I be the captain? Would I have gotten man of the year? You see what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and
And you know what?
because
These companies are like trying to fit into today, but they're still so ignorant
so
to
far
what's
behind,
really
yeah,
going on,
yeah,
and it's, I mean, I can understand some people where they live in middle America and they don't see any Black people. But if you're from like a mid to big city, how can you not know? Like, you're
right.
walking around with blinders on. There's no way that these people do not know what's going on. They just choose not to look at it or be involved in the situation, which is sad. But it's
Right.
good that you're getting these opportunities because now your voice is being heard in these spaces, and that's what's lacking.
So, okay. So I'm glad you said that. So with that being said, with these opportunities that I have, it's almost like a double-edged sword, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
am I playing the token? You see what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I have to be careful with that because I'm not trying to be anybody's token at all. Like, that's not the role I'm playing because at the end of the day, like, I've accomplished way more than most two-armed men have in my life in this short time span that I've been an arm amputee. But I'm not trying to be a token. At the same time, I do want to take advantage of these opportunities because, like you said, I want my voice to be heard. But when I have this platform and expressing my views, our views on behalf of us, and not only triathlon, but in running, I have to be careful on how I articulate to them our point of view and where we're coming from because it's so easy to get labeled as that angry black man,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's so easy, and it's so easy for them to be like, oh well, he's still complaining, and we're trying to give him everything, and he's still complaining. So you gotta
You
you
know what?
gotta
It's a gift and a curse. It
yeah,
really
it
is.
is.
Because
It is.
the reason why we're in the rooms now is not a good reason, but it is good that we are there because I mean, I just saw a ad, which is ridiculous for Gucci, right? It was a
Mhm.
Jamaican. It was supposed to be the flag of the Jamaican colors. Did you see that?
Yep. Yep.
It was
Yep.
like the it was the Guyana flag colors. I'm like, who is in the room in these companies? And that's the
Yep.
problem. We are not in the room to say that this is not correct. So yeah, I understand what
Yep.
you're saying by you not wanting to be that token, but it's I like that you are. And you can put a positive spin on this and bring your perspective because you're not the poster boy for all black people and men in America. You're speaking for you.
Right. And I don't want to be
Yeah.
because there's so many different viewpoints. We have so many different experiences. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So I don't want to be the voice for everybody, but I would
Yeah.
like to be the starting point. You know what I mean? Like I would like to say my piece and be like, and be able to pass it off and be like, so this is my experience, but let's go talk to Soj from Varlo and see what his
Mhm.
experience is. Because I guarantee you, my experience is so completely different. Me and him have had a couple of
Yeah.
conversations. Our
Yeah.
experiences, the way we grew up, not even the same.
Hmm.
And how we grew up, you know what I mean? So, and our experiences, I'm from the South, so it's different.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I do try to utilize the platform, but I also think sometimes they give us positions and they give us these opportunities to shut us up, right? So like they just
Hmm.
had the endurance exchange. And I just knew I was going to be a part of that endurance exchange. And I wasn't. Got it. So I'm the team captain and I'm the man of the year, but I don't get invited to the endurance exchange. I had an issue with that. So I shot an email to the people. It was like, hey, so very articulate. I shot it to them, let it rest. Um, then I just started really noticing stuff. Like I belong to a triathlon program that specialized in, it was uh, a veteran nonprofit that was a triathlon program. It was like a starter program. And I just remember, excuse me, I was like, I did everything I could to promote them and making posts, and my social media presence is huge. So I was like putting them on doing everything. And then I noticed I was like, I was
What are
calling
you doing
people
for
that I
me?
knew.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was calling people. I was like, hey, so did you just get this grant? And they was like, yeah, they gave me $5,000. So I'm calling people and they're getting stuff. So I do my little grant. I get email back immediately like, yeah, so we don't have the funding and we haven't had the funding for this for like quite some time. So I immediately, like I threw a fit, and I'm not gonna lie, like I didn't use choice words, but I immediately told him, I was like, listen, I don't appreciate this. And I was like, I know for a fact of X, Y, and Z. I was like, so at this particular time, I'm going to remove myself from your program. I was like, please don't reach out for me for nothing else. I don't need you guys. Like, I'm fine where I'm at. You haven't done anything anyway. So that's fine. And they immediately went to social media and like they didn't shun me, but they tried to do this whole Black Lives Matter campaign. I was like, man, you guys are out of control.
I hate that.
Out of control.
I really hate that. And you know what? You know who's in it for the right and wrong reasons because there was a season like we're ebbing and flowing, and we're in the downturn of it now, and you can see how companies have switched. They jumped on the bandwagon and they're like off of it. They're like, we did our posts, we put our black squares up, we did this, and we're done with it. So you kind of know
Pay,
who
yeah. I mean,
to align yourself with now.
if you pay attention to commercials, just when you're watching TV, if it's not an interracial couple, it's something about Black culture, but it's a white company doing it, and you can tell that there was not one person of color in that room when they made that commercial. For example, I saw the Louis Vuitton commercial the other day for the first time, and I'm looking at this commercial like, who did this? Like,
I didn't see
and
it. What commercial?
it's a Louis Vuitton commercial, and like they're doing like some kind of, it's supposed to be like some kind of, it's supposed to be an African culture type dance to some crazy music. And then they went and found the two darkest Black people they could find. And I was just like, is this real right now?
These companies are going to
Absurd.
misappropriate our culture until the end of time, and if we keep supporting them, they're going to keep doing it, and that's the
Yeah.
problem. That's the
Yeah.
problem right there. Look, we going off on we going down a
Yeah.
long road here.
Yeah. But so I will say this. What's going on right now is it's because it's popular, even within our sport, right? So within the sports that we do, it's popular to be inclusive and to diversify. It's popular. That's what's going on. So like, if you notice, like these companies are posting what they're going to post, but there's no action behind it. And the people that they are choosing, they're choosing people that they feel like, okay, like if we choose this group, they're subtle enough, just enough to not make a lot of noise, but they can represent us. You see what I'm saying? So when that happened to me, that's one of the reasons why I created my nonprofit, my own foundation, because I wanted to be a part of change, but I wanted to do it my way. Like, I don't want anybody to tell me how to run my organization. I'm going to do it the way I want to. And we're going to create change the way I see fit amongst like our culture. You know what I mean? And using the sports brings everybody together. You know what I mean? No matter what race, creed, background, whatever, everybody comes together when it comes to a sporting event. So I'm using the sport of triathlon and endurance running to bridge that gap. And I mean, so far it's been remarkable. I mean, I'm getting the opportunity to do it, and I'm doing it the way I want to. So,
and your foundation is called Swim, Bike, Run for Equality. I was going to ask you about that, but you already started talking about it. So
I knew we had to like get off. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that next.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what's your like goal of this foundation? What's the mission?
So my goal is I want to show people what true inclusiveness, like to be inclusive mean, and what diversity really looks like. So when you hear inclusiveness and diversity, people automatically take it to the race. Off top, when you hear those two words, all these organizations, that's what they're doing. They're trying to involve people of color, right? Well, absolutely, I want to do that because I do want to bridge that gap. But to me and to my board, that's not all that it means. It means race, religion, whoever or whatever you identify yourself, like it doesn't matter. Everybody should get the opportunity to be who they are, right? It's just about being a good human. So that's what we're about. And the reason why I did that instead of becoming the pro-Black organization like I originally wanted to is because one of my good friends, who is one of those girls, she's from Wisconsin, or she's from like Wisconsin or something like that, and she's white, not a Black person in sight, but me and her are really close. We're super close, and she's a para athlete. And when that George Floyd incident happened, she called me hysterically crying. And she wanted to do something and she wanted to say something, but she didn't want to offend anybody. And she wanted to know what she could do. And she made a comment on Facebook and people just drug her for it. Like, cause the whole white privilege thing is super huge. And they was just dragging her. And I went to her defense and I was like, why are y'all dragging this young lady? Just because she doesn't know. If you live in that life and you are not experiencing anything else, then how are you supposed to know? That's like asking you, how does it feel to be rich? Well, I don't know because I don't make over $100 and some $1,000 a year. So I don't know. I have bills for real, for real. So how are you supposed to know? So that bothered me. So me and her got together and we wanted to create a platform where people can educate and be educated, but do it on a respectful manner. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm all about just treating people with respect and dignity. You know what I mean? Like just be a good human. Don't crucify me because I don't know. I'm sorry I didn't grow up like that. So educate me, show me. You know what I mean? So and that's what we did. And before, like legit, I added another person, Lolly. She's a phenomenal person. She's a teacher in San Antonio. So before I knew it, like we had over 1,000 members within like a month. So then, and it was prominent people on there. Like there's CEOs and people that I never even knew was on there, but they're reaching out to me and they're just like, hey, so yeah, you really should think about making this a nonprofit. I was like, yeah. I was like, I'm a full-time athlete. I do not have time. I just don't have that kind of time. I mean, I'm training every bit of like 6 to 8 hours a day with 1 day of recovery. My 1 day of recovery is not going to be trying to be messing with this. And I was like, I just don't have that time. So I talked it over with the 2 girls and they was like, yeah, we'll form a board. We'll add another person and we'll take care of it. They was like, Mike, you just be the face and you can speak when, and you could be the this, that, and the other. You're the founder, but we'll take care of everything else. And it just clockwork. It just, the 3 young ladies that I have on my board, they just, I mean, within 2 months, we were a nonprofit. All the paperwork taken care of. And I was asking questions. It take people years to become a nonprofit. And we did it within 2 months. And it's just been a great experience. And we are providing a platform for people to reach out and this, that, and the other. And we're creating like a kit right now for our own foundation with Zoot, which is, a team I belong to. We added a brother on the team by Derek Britton. Do you know Derek?
No, Born in Derek.
Dude. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good dude, man. And I met Derek because I teamed up with Base out of Colorado and he had an issue with that and he let me have it. Like he messaged me. Yeah, he messaged me and he let me have it. I mean, went up one side and down the other. And then he said, after he let me have it, he told me to call him. So I called him. I was like, listen, man. He was like, no, you listen. He was like, I've been in this sport way longer than you have. And you have no idea what storm you're about to create. And he schooled me. Like he schooled me. And I listened. We talked for like a couple of hours and he schooled me. And from that point on, every time I was getting ready to make a decision, I would call him. And then I would put him on Zoom call for our team meetings. So finally, I was just like, I mean, why don't you just be on this board, man? Like, why don't you just be the vice president? Like, I kind of need you right now. And he accepted it, like right there on the spot. Like, so, and he's a Zoot ambassador as well. So now that I have him, and I mean, it's been cool. It's been a great situation. We have big plans and, my goal for 2022 is we're going to create an ambassador team. And so we're going to have our own ambassador team, like, Zoot. And we're going to sponsor three people of color. So 1 woman, 1 man, and then I'm going to go find a para-athlete. So I won't be the only one. So we're going to fully sponsor them to do races and we're going to get them bikes because I have a deal with Felt. So we're going to get them bikes and get them going and whatever discipline they want to do, whether it's sprint, Olympic, full, half, we're we're going to do that. And then, of course, Derek is a runner, just like Lolly. They're both, endurance runners. So we're going to create a running program. And so we're going to have a separate endurance running program. And then we're going to sponsor 3 other athletes on that end. And we're just going to, try to make the sport grow.
Well, it sounds like you will be doing big things with your nonprofit in the future. I'm looking forward to seeing what it's going to become. And on that note, I could talk to you all day.
I know.
All day. But we're going to wrap up this interview because, folks got a short attention span. They might have clicked out by now, but not after your harrowing story, because you had me on the edge of my seat. I loved every minute of it. And it's just amazing to see what you have become after that experience. I mean, not many people to bounce back. That's why I asked you the mental question, because mentally that can just kill people. And you came out on the right side of it, and you're doing good, and you're setting a great example for others that are going to come up behind you. So I really commend you for that. And it was just great talking to you. It's the first time we chatted, and it was just a good conversation.
Yeah, I see. We've been friends on social media for a hot second,
a long time. The Black triathlete world is this big, so we all know each other. But long time. But it was great having you on the show. When you get those ambassador programs going, definitely send me the information and I'll put it out there, because athletes are always looking. Triathlons are expensive. We make it look good and easy, but people, you don't know, triathlons are expensive. All of the gear we have to buy, the bike.
Especially when you start to travel.
Listen, I never did a away triathlon because I didn't want to pay to ship my bike with me. It's expensive. And people don't realize that. So when we get opportunities to get sponsorships, it's, we have to let our community know, because they're not going to let us know.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's one of the things, throughout this whole time in developing relationships, that's one of the reasons why I want to do an ambassadorship program, because I've developed all these relationships, and I developed a relationship with bike flights. And I know me, I hate flying with my bike. I hate standing there at that conveyor belt, waiting for my bike to come down. Oh my goodness. I have no idea what this bike is going to come out looking like. And I hate that feeling. So, develop a relationship with bike flights. So I ship my bike every time now. So, and I've met people that don't even know about it. People don't know that you can ship.
There's another one as well, right? That they pick up you bring them your bike, they dismantle it and ship it and put it back together, right?
Yeah. So bike flight, that's what you do. You take your bike to your local bike shop. They do everything for you, and they ship it from your bike, from your shop, to a local bike shop where the race is going to be. And then by the time you get there, it's already put together. You know what I'm saying? And you just, bam, do it again. And
that's
it could
what
be
people
expensive.
like me need, who can't even change a flat tire.
Listen,
I don't know how many tire camps I've been in. I still cannot change a flat tire.
Listen, if I get a flat tire, I tell people all the time, they're like, man, you don't ride with an extra inner tube? What do I look like? Come on, man.
Hey, wait, I have one, and I have the whole kit, in the back, but I'm SOL if I get a flat tire on the road somewhere by myself.
I had a dude try to show me how to change a tire with my feet and my hand. I was like, listen, brother, if I ever get a flat tire, the last thing you're going to see me do is be on the side of the road barefooted trying to change a tire. If I get a flat, I'm done. I'm going to call a SAG vehicle. We're going to the house. It's a wrap.
Oh my God. That's my nightmare. That's why I never bike alone. I bike with someone that can change my flat if I get one.
Smart. Yep. Smart. Yep.
All right. So I want to thank you again, Mike, for being on the Runway podcast. I will leave all of your socials down below so my listeners can follow you. And that's it. You have anything else you want to add?
I appreciate you having me, and I appreciate what you do. It's platforms like this, man, that, people run across or they hear about, and it encourages them to get out and, you know, get outside their box. You know what I mean? So yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
definitely appreciate you and what you do, and I appreciate you having me.
Of course. All right. So we will chat another time.
Sounds like a plan.
I would like to thank Michael for being on the Runway podcast. Did his story have you on the edge of your seat like it did me? If you're listening, I want you to watch this on YouTube when it drops the following Tuesday so you can see my facial expressions and so you can make those facial expressions right along with me, because his story was just, oh my God, unbelievable. And I've been following him for a long time. We're both Black triathletes. The Black triathlete space is very small, and I never knew his entire story. So this was the first time that I heard it as well. And oh my God, he is just such an inspiration. It's been amazing what he has been able to do in the sport of triathlon. And I just wish him a whole lot of luck. So all of his details will be down below, so be sure to follow him on Instagram. Look out for his nonprofit organization. They are going to be doing great things coming soon. And if you are a triathlete, definitely hit him up. He is a wealth of knowledge, and he is willing to share and mentor other athletes, which is great because not everyone is that nice in the sporting world. So again, I want to thank you for tuning into the show. Please come back next week to see what extraordinary athlete I will be featuring next. And I will catch you on the next one. Later. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Be sure to subscribe to The Runway on your favorite podcast app and leave us a review of the show on Apple Podcasts. It would really help me out. If you are a runner that has a story to tell and you would like to be on the show, you can email hello@therunwave.com or send us a DM on Instagram to The Run Wave. See you next time.